Cabin Sports Radio.
Here comes the siren. I want to go higher. Oh, my goodness. Batista with a drive. Deep left field. No doubt about it. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Oh, baby, for sure.
Cabin Sports Radio starts now.
Welcome to Cabin Sports Radio, our last show of 2019. I know what you're saying. Lekter, Mike, you guys are slackers.
Yeah.
Next Monday is only the 16th. What the heck? I'm out here the 17th on the morning, and you know I won't have packed.
Naturally.
We got stuff to do, Mike, all right? And we got lots of stuff to talk about tonight on Cabin Sports Radio. We're going to talk some Raptors, some NBA, and very exciting news from Canadian tennis this morning. As reported by TSN, we'll talk about huge news for Bianca Andreescu, and we'll do a little NHL Canadian franchise Christmas wish list. All that and more coming up on Cabin Sports Radio.
The CSR Podcast.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. Check out sportnorth.com for all things happening related to sports in the NWT. Really exciting news this morning. By the way, welcome to the show. Welcome, Unbreakable Mike Gibbons.
Thank you so much.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
You may have stabbed Cabin Sports Radio in the back.
I know.
Telling me off the air.
Yeah.
You were giving full disclosure. You appeared on a different sports podcast.
Yeah, it was a hockey podcast.
Go
last
ahead.
night.
Give it a shout out. Give it a plug.
Yeah, it's called Let's Get Pucked Up by Robin Koymans. Someone I've met.
Is that how you pronounce his last name?
I think so.
Okay.
I know how to spell it. I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope he's not listening. We got to listen back to our podcast afterwards. It's funny. It's a different medium, right? It feels a little more informal, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I felt really
We're very
bad.
stuffy here on Cabin Sports
Yeah,
Radio.
yeah. I did feel bad, though, so I think it was one of the first things I told you today because I just wanted that. I wanted it out there. I
You had a
wanted
dark cloud following you around all day.
a whole bunch of guilt when I woke up this morning. I was going to text you, too, but I wanted to tell you in person, so here I am right now. Maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe I go back. Who knows?
I'm sure you'll be invited back, and perhaps,
And you too.
Perhaps, we'll both make an appearance on what's it called again?
Let's Get Pucked Up.
Let's Get Pucked Up, and you can. I think I've seen it on Spotify.
That's right.
You can check it out there. I don't know how he got on Spotify so quickly. It took Cabin Sports Radio like months and months to get on.
Had to
Spotify.
build that credibility.
Yeah, well done, Robin, and keep going. And hopefully we will hook up and make an appearance on the Get Pucked Up.
That's right.
Podcast, because I mean, we only have an hour here on Cabin Sports Radio, and sometimes we feel like we'd like to talk just hockey for an hour, but unfortunately, there are other sports that exist.
That's right.
Makes
In my
things
experience
difficult.
with podcasts, too, is they're usually combined with some form of alcohol. So then you can really stretch out an episode, for better or for worse. Depends on, the conversation.
Yeah, the informalities
That's
tend
right.
to get a little bit bigger. And okay. Fair
Exactly.
enough. Well, shout out to Robin, and we look forward to our invitation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you already got yours. I look forward to my invitation.
That's right. We can make it happen. I know it.
Okay, perfect. Very exciting news in the world of Canadian sports this morning. Bianca Andreescu, a name that you've probably heard once or twice, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times over the past year. She's done some interesting things. She's done some impressive things. She's done some things that have just frankly never been done before in Canadian tennis. And as a result, this morning, she was named the Canadian Athlete of the Year, the Lou Marsh Award, which is presented annually by the Toronto Star. They poll a panel of nationwide sports journalists, and every year they pick, regardless of gender, whoever it is, the Canadian Athlete of the Year. And very cool in this case with Bianca because she becomes the first ever tennis player to win the Lou Marsh Award. So very prestigious honor for her.
And I think a lot of tennis players in the running before her, right? Like there was the rise of Jeannie Bouchard, there was the rise of Milos Raonic, even Denis Shapovalov, who all showed promise at different stages and are all still young and very capable of getting to that peak again, or for the first time in their careers, but never quite had that pinnacle moment like her with that huge U.S. Open victory over Serena Williams, the best in terms of women's tennis, the GOAT, as they would say. And then even going back to the Rogers Cup, what was like a month before the U.S. Open, not the way she would have liked to have won it, but beat her again via injury. But I think really what really put her on the map was the Indian Wells victory just before the Rogers Cup. So a fantastic summer for her. Crazy to think that was back in, I think it was in September, the U.S. Open victory. So maybe not so surprising that it's her that ends up walking away with the Lou Marsh Award, because she's probably in a lot of people's mind been the front runner since September after that really historic victory. The first ever Grand Slam win by any tennis player of Canadian descent. So really awesome.
Like you say, I mean, really not surprising in the end when you put it all together. And the list of nominees, the other finalists, are pretty impressive list as well. The other finalists were Brooke Henderson, Andre DeGrasse, Mike Soroka, and Jordan Binnington.
Yeah.
All with, fantastic seasons and great stories of their own. Really, Jordan Binnington, kind of a similar story arc to Bianca Andreescu's, was completely an afterthought.
Yeah.
I think she was ranked like 152nd in the world or something like that coming into this season, and then ends up winning, one of the Grand Slam tournaments, which is pretty amazing. And of course, Binnington was not even on the St. Louis Blues roster to start the season. Couple injuries, and he was arguably the biggest part of that whole turnaround. Of course, midway through the season, St. Louis Blues were not in a playoff spot and were far from it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jordan Binnington stopped literally everything that was shot at him for about half a season. And lo and behold, the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup. However, not enough to knock off Bianca Andreescu. And I when I saw Andre DeGrasse, I was like, if this was about like 3 years ago, he probably would have won that. But I mean, and so he's still looking for his first Lou Marsh Award, which is significant on its own, because now that Bianca Andreescu has won her first, she's only 19 years old, I think. And I was looking back through the list, which they started awarding this back in like 1936. And I was looking back, there's a lot of names, of course, from those era that I wouldn't really recognize, but a lot in the modern era that I would. And so I was kind of doing a little bit of math on birth dates and whatnot. And I don't know for sure, but she might be the youngest person to ever win the Lou Marsh Award. I took a look at like Sidney Crosby.
Yeah.
He's won it twice. I think he won his first one in 2007. And by my math, that would have put him at age 20.
Right.
Wayne Gretzky won his first one in 82. I think that would have put him at about the same. I think like age 20 or so. And then there's a whole bunch. There's like horse riders from like the 1940s, and swimming and whatnot, and alpine skiers that is like, I don't recognize these people's names, but I can't imagine there's a whole lot of them that were younger than the age of 19. So very, very cool for Bianca Andreescu. And now, I mean, despite the fact that she has already in some ways reached the pinnacle of her sport and her career, she could still go up from here. Right. And there's a very real chance that she wins this award once, twice.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 3 more times. Like, who knows? 19 years old and showing that, it's still, for where she's at, it's still a very raw talent. You put on years of experience and refinement, and with where we're at with sports medicine, we're seeing tennis players play longer than any tennis career was. As far as life expectancy goes, You compare now to like the early 90s, and there was maybe a couple tennis players that played, well into their 30s, but never what you're seeing now with Serena Williams and Roger Federer and the like. But age 19, already Canada's Athlete of the Year.
Yeah.
I say she does it 2 more times.
Can I steal your thunder for 1 second?
You absolutely may.
I saw your point, and I was thinking the same thing as a 19-year-old if she was the youngest. But then, you know who jumped in my mind? And I had no idea if she actually won the Lou Marsh Award. But you'll recall that the 2016 Summer Olympics when Penny Oleksiak, 16 years old, won 4 Olympic medals. She did win. The Lou Marsh trophy as Canada's Athlete of the Year. Now, that was back in 2016.
You know what? And I saw her name when I was going down the list, and it rung a bell, but it didn't tip me off as to like age. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, 16 years old.
Yeah. So I had no idea, but it kind of popped in my head just thinking back to as we get ready for 2020 Tokyo happening next summer.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of reminded of it a little bit, and went back, and yes, it was a wild guess on my part, but she did in fact win the Lou Marsh Trophy in 2016. Not to take a single thing away from the best thing we have going in tennis right now, and that's Bianca Andreescu, who climbed, you mentioned 152, barely qualified for the U.S. Open in 2018, and now if you look, I think she's ranked number 5 in the world, which is pretty incredible. Milos Raonic down to 30. We still have 3 men, I think, in the top 30. Jeannie Bouchard has obviously fallen off a little bit. You hope that she can regain her form.
I'm not holding my breath.
Not really. But as far as Canadian women's tennis goes, I think the future's looking pretty bright in the hands of 19-year-old Bianca Andreescu. And I agree. I definitely see a couple more Lou Marsh Awards.
Hopefully, anyway.
If not, a couple more titles. A couple more Grand Slams.
At the very least.
Would be very nice.
And then if some other Canadian wants to, top that in their own field, well, that's their business. But, Bianca's going to do her thing for sure. But, you're a journalist by trade. Some very good on-the-fly journalism.
Thank you.
Well done,
It was
sir.
just, a little thought I had, and then I had to go back into the old archive. We found it.
So if you want to read more about that, of course, you go to tsn.ca. They've got a full write-up. And, big congratulations to Bianca. Just continuing to make us proud in this country. But let's move on to the NHL. There's been a lot that's come out in the world of professional hockey that has not made us so proud in recent weeks. We're not going to focus on that, though. We did that. We covered that last week. There's been some more stuff that has come out. Some of it has been, equally troubling. And there's also there's a few things that have come out where, I don't know, it's borderline getting a bit silly.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that because I don't want to demean, the experiences of anyone who feels like they have been, that they've been treated bad or had been treated unfairly or just abused in various different ways. But did you see the Mike Keenan story that came out?
No.
So Iron Mike Keenan, legendary coach in the NHL, and was always hated by his players.
Okay.
And the thought, of course, was always that he was just very hard on his players. He was a tough, no-nonsense approach coach, and he developed a reputation for that. Brett Hull, most notoriously, just hated him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Get along.
It's Brett Hull, though, right?
Yeah.
He's not exactly the renowned for his work ethic back in the day, and Mike Keenan didn't exactly like that.
Okay.
So they didn't get along. That's, it was well known in the past. But with all of this coming out post Mike Babcock firing, and it's just gone on and on. We've seen more and more stories come out. I kind of in the back of my mind thought, we're going to see something about Mike Keenan eventually. Not to say anything about him as a person, because I obviously don't know him as a person, but some of the stories you were hearing were just kind of players. It seemed like it was starting to veer towards blowing off steam and just giving their personal opinions of their coaches, not necessarily because they had done anything wrong or morally wrong or illegal. They were just like, I just hated the guy.
Yeah.
And so I figured there's got to be some Mike Keenan stories coming out. Lo and behold, former NHLer Christian Huselius came out and was talking about his experience playing with the Florida Panthers under Mike Keenan as head coach. And I was like, so I saw a headline. It was like, blockbuster story, blah, 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 about Mike Keenan. I was like, all right, here we go. This is kind of what I was waiting for. And so I read the whole story. And it seemed to me that his biggest gripe was that Mike Keenan made him ride the bike extra.
Oh.
Which...
Like after games?
Before, just conditioning. He wasn't convinced that Huselius was, I don't know, in good enough shape, or maybe that he was like a bit soft or something like that. And so he was a bit harder on him. And I don't think that's not really a big deal.
Well, he never could have played for the Ottawa Senators. Do you remember though? Like the post-game interviews when every single player is on the bike and they're shoving a microphone in their face as they're sweating on their spin bike?
Oh, that was classic.
He could not have been with that franchise.
I remember other teams started parodying it. It was getting so ridiculous.
Yeah. But no, with all the other allegations coming out of serious physical, emotional abuse at the hands of coaches, that doesn't sound all that bad.
No, and it's
get that cardio up
again. That like you hear something like that, and you just worry that someone is seeing that and like not all the other like actual bad stories, and they're like, is this all everyone's complaining about? That they had to work a little harder off the ice and get a little bit better conditioning,
right?
Which is obviously not the case. If you really want to look into it, there's plenty of legit awful things that have come out about coaches in the past. Another one that came out recently was Peter Laviolette. And I realized I just said we're not going to get into this.
We're getting
now we're getting into
whatever.
It. There was one that came out about Peter Laviolette when he was coaching the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, it would have been within the last 10 years.
Yeah. And
there was a video clip of him supposedly punching Ville Lino in the head, and it's edited so that it looks really awful. It does it like repeat motion, and then it has like him zoomed in on his face as he's clearly giving like an impassioned speech to his team, like during a timeout, trying to rally them and get them going. And so he responded to that and said, actually both him and Ville Lino responded to that, saying that was not intentional. So Laviolette said he was trying to pound his fist into his palm, and he accidentally caught a piece of Ville Lino's helmet, and so you see it kind of from the front angle, and you see Lino's helmet get rattled.
Yeah.
And I mean, Ville Lino himself came out and said, he didn't mean to do that. He was not punching me in the back of the head as a regular thing. Wow. And it's just, you get to a point where I saw the sharing of the video clip, and it's so played up to look, like he just viciously hammered him in the back of the head. And it's just, it's getting to a point where, I don't want to say it's getting to a point where we don't want to hear any more of this, because if there's legitimate things, for sure, but
they should come forward.
It does seem like people are starting to take advantage a little bit of the current climate, which is unfortunate because, like we said, there are very real and very legitimate complaints and very real culture things that need to be dealt with within hockey. So if you're sharing garbage like this, please stop.
Yeah. You wonder if players are going to have to sort of walk back some of their comments too, whether it was made to media or they show up on a podcast, or something like that. Some public comments that have been shared, you wonder now if they're, portrayed in a different context, or someone misconstrues it and sees that as some form of abuse too. If you might have to see people walk some comments back, like, whoa. That is not what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah. So, hopefully, last week we were talking about it, and basically our end resolution was that hopefully this does come to some positive conclusion. But, putting unnecessary heat and gas on the fire, I don't know if that really helps anything.
The last thing I'll say on the matter is that I think really soon the NHL Board of Governors is convening. I don't know if it's for an annual meeting or just semi-regular.
Yeah.
You figure the agenda's probably changed a little bit.
I would think this is something that is heavily represented on the agenda of items. But enough about that.
Yeah.
It's the Christmas season.
The wish list, baby.
We're getting into the Christmas spirit here on Cabin Sports Radio. And with that, we're going to go through the Canadian franchises in the NHL and figure out what's on their Christmas wish list. As, of course, order of priority, order of importance, we start in the East, and we move to the West, and Vancouver gets left behind. So we'll start with the Ottawa Senators. Mike, what do you think would be on the Ottawa Senators' Christmas wish list this year?
I wanted to leave this a surprise for you because my eyes, and I've got pretty good vision, so I'm told, I didn't believe it when I saw it. And I tried to build it into something bigger. Maybe it was a special teams issue.
Okay.
It's not a special teams issue. Their penalty kill is actually not that bad. They're ranked number 12th in the league, 82.4%.
Reasonable.
Are you ready
Give
for
it to
this
me.
power play percentage?
Give it to me.
9.4%.
Whoa! That's not good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
so,
9.6%.
9.6.
9 goals
Alarmist.
in 94 opportunities.
Oh, my
Which
God.
puts them at 31st in the NHL. So something resembling a competent power play is what should be on their Christmas wish list.
You think that's something that a guy named Bobby Ryan might have been able to help them out with at some point. I shouldn't make jokes about that because he actually has just, like last week, I saw a report that he's checked into, I can't remember what it was called, but basically I don't want to say substance abuse because I don't know if that's what's going on with him, but he is getting some external help from the NHL. So hopefully everything is going all right with Bobby Ryan and he can come out of that all right. But the Ottawa Senators, definitely a little help on the power play. I don't know where that's going to come from. We knew this was going to be a tough year for the Ottawa Senators.
Sure did.
They don't really have a go-to off like a sniper or anything like that. They're very much a young team that is still finding its identity. And I don't know how, I don't know how you win with a team like that other than just youthful exuberance. But let's be honest. The Ottawa Senators didn't come into this season expecting to win games.
Right.
I think they were just expecting to gain experience for the young roster that they had and hopefully move that in a positive direction into next year as they are in a full-scale rebuild.
Oh, they sure are.
Without question. I think, though, if there is one thing that the Ottawa Senators might have on their Christmas wish list, I think it's just a new owner.
Yeah, Eugene
Melnyk.
Time to go.
I think he's kind of worn out everybody there.
Yeah.
I get that sense. And he's been quiet recently.
Yeah.
I don't know if, we'd like to think that people learn from their mistakes.
Right.
He's made enough of them that you would, think this guy's got to learn something by now. But I think it's just a matter of time until some other crazy accusation comes out.
Even going back to my time living in Ottawa, so we're going back to 2013 would have been the last time I was there, maybe even 2012.
Right.
And I moved there in 2008. Is the team up for sale? Is it not? Is the team relocating to the downtown instead of where it currently is in Canada? Is it going to go to LeBreton Flats? None of which have been answered whatsoever. So there's still all these questions there surrounding the ownership group. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure if anything's been solved.
Are certain star players trying to get other star players murdered?
Yeah.
We don't know. That is just a part of being an Ottawa Senator.
That's right.
I suppose you just never know what it's going to bring. All right, moving a little bit further west. Actually, no, we are moving a little bit further east. My geography is not great.
That's okay.
We go to the Montreal Canadiens. Mike, what's on the Montreal Canadiens Christmas wish list?
I don't know if this is unfair, but I wrote down Carey Price from a couple years ago.
That's unfair.
That's unfair?
Yeah.
Team I'm not maybe it can be chalked up to a larger team defense issue. They're scoring goals.
They are.
They got 102 goals for on the season, which puts them right on pace with the potent Toronto Maple Leafs. their goal differential isn't terrible.
Yeah.
-5. All I'm saying is kind of pedestrian stats from Carey Price, whom we've long held to be the best goalie in the NHL. The goaltender position's hard. You got Vezina, different Vezina candidates on any given year, and it largely depends on the team in front of you. I think Shea Weber's had a bit of a bounce back season.
Yeah.
But I would say Carey Price, 3.04 goals against average, .902 save percentage. Not elite. But
Nope,
I mean,
not
I'm
Carey
not
Price
by
numbers.
all means putting this solely on him whatsoever. I guess if there is a silver lining, they just snapped was it an 8-game losing streak against the Islanders?
Yeah.
A team that had picked up points in how many games straight? So
Doing it in style.
yeah, I mean,
all right.
and they're still somehow in the mix. They could be a wild card team. Who knows?
Still ahead of the Leafs.
That's right. Yeah, they really are. So that's what I would say. And maybe that's a little unfair, but maybe if he can boost those numbers a bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. At the same time, I feel like it's odd the way that Carey Price has been the elite goaltender of the NHL for the better part of the past decade.
Yeah.
He's been the guy.
And we don't question it.
And we don't question it. And but the media always, it seems like every year there comes like a month stretch where he's not playing at his best.
Mm-hmm.
And, he takes a bit of a dip. And that's just kind of the way it goes in the regular season.
Yeah.
It's an 82
It's a long
game season. It's long. There are ebbs and flows. And when traditionally you have a team like the Montreal Canadiens who don't score a lot of goals, this year is not the case. But in the past, they have been a team that has gotten by on team defense and Carey Price being solid on the back end.
Yeah.
They're kind of a bizarro team this year. They're scoring lots of goals. They're not getting a ton of support from Carey Price at the moment. Maybe he just needs that workload back. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they're playing too well in front of him.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I would say if I'm a Montreal Canadian, my Christmas wish list would be that Carey Price just becomes an anonymous goaltender. You don't have the name attached. You don't have the tag of the elite goaltender. You don't have the contract attached.
Right.
If you could just eliminate the name and everything that has been Carey Price and just let him play.
Yeah.
Let him not be a headline. Just let him play and see what happens. I have a feeling Carey Price will bounce back for the rest of the season and will be lights out for the Montreal Canadiens.
I love it.
Of course, their scoring will completely dry up because that's just the way it goes. But yes, I think if the media could get off of Carey Price's back, I think that would
contract doesn't help. Like you said, if he was an anonymous goaltender, because there are some huge goaltender contracts out there, and with that comes a lot of pressure.
Absolutely.
Especially when there's so many teams now that are pretty much splitting the crease between two guys. And how many? If you look at the league leaders in goals against average or save percentage, first of all, I probably couldn't name 3 guys in the top 5. Because they're on, not veterans minimum, but they're on minimum contracts, basically, a lot of these guys. Now, they haven't, the sample size is obviously very small, but we're seeing that, where so many teams are splitting the crease. So it puts so much more pressure when you've got those goaltenders with those big contracts, and Carey Price is one of them.
All right. The Toronto Maple Leafs. What is on the Maple Leafs Christmas wish list, Mike?
I'll keep it really simple. Anything that amounts to a backup goaltender. Anything. It is a scheduled loss if anyone other than Frederik Andersen is in the crease. I think other than Hellbuck, Frederik Andersen might have the most wins in the entire league right now with 14 or something like that. Do you know how many points? Do you know how many backup points the Toronto Maple Leafs have this year?
Hit me.
1.
Oh.
When Frederik Andersen is not playing, and he played in a back-to-back last week on Wednesday and Thursday against, or maybe it was Tuesday, Wednesday, against Philly and Colorado. That's how desperate they are to get points.
2 losses.
Yeah, 2 losses, yeah. 6-1 and 3-1. Not pretty. But I'm sorry, and I know that Babcock trusted Hutchinson before he put him on waivers.
Yeah.
Sheldon O'Keefe gave him another chance. I guess he didn't clear waivers. I don't know how that works. But Sheldon O'Keefe thought, you know what? New guy in town. Maybe they'll play better in front of him. He got lit up all over again.
Yep.
So it is a scheduled loss if anyone but Frederick Anderson is in net. So I don't know how they approach that with virtually no cap space whatsoever. Do you have to dip into the prospect pool? How are you going to match salaries? Is there someone underperforming on a not so nice contract you can send another way? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know who's available. But if they can get anything resembling a decent, even competent backup goaltender, maybe they'll be okay.
I think if the game of hockey was just a mathematical algorithm, they'd be doing great.
Yeah.
I don't know what their Corsi is looking like, but of course we know Kyle Dubas is an advanced stats aficionado.
Yeah.
That's why he is where he is today. But the team we're seeing on the ice is not a great hockey team.
Not really. No,
Quite
no.
frankly, they're not a good hockey team.
No.
They grit, number one.
Yeah.
Absolutely number one, I think, is on their Christmas list. Yeah, backup goalie, that was one of the major things that coming into this year we were hoping, and they didn't even have to be spectacular.
No.
Just win half the games, you know?
When is the last time Hutchinson won a game?
I know he won a
Riddle me
couple
that.
last year.
You're going back a full calendar year.
Yeah. And I mean, Garrett Sparks before that was not great. Yeah, it's been a really, really tough go finding a good backup goaltender. Maybe you just call up Trevor Kidd. See what he's up to. Go way back. Bring the Kidder back. But yeah, no, backup goaltender, defensive depth. I mean, since Mike Babcock was fired, you saw Tyson Barrie suddenly have a couple games where he's returned to form, and then kind of fallen back into previous form. I mean, they just do not gel as a team.
No.
And I think there's always kind of a not a honeymoon phase, but there's always, you get a jolt when a coach gets removed and a new coach comes in. Traditionally, if you look back through history, I think 90% of the time, the team that has just had a coaching change wins the next game.
Yeah.
They won that game. I think they won the next game, and they've been about 500 since then. Not a remarkable improvement over Sheldon Keefe. I think they look like they're playing a bit more to their strengths, which is puck possession.
Definitely.
Using their skill. They're not, they're not being a dump and chase team.
Right.
Which they shouldn't be. But it's still not generating results. And then you had, like you mentioned, the game against Philadelphia last week, where it was a close game for the most part.
Yeah.
They looked frustrated for the better part of the game, but then Philly got the go-ahead goal, and they just quit.
Completely folded.
The
Completely
floodgates
folded.
just opened, and they're like, "Screw you, Freddie Anderson." Let's practice your breakaway goaltending.
Slap shots from the top of the circle.
Yeah. I mean, so that was so disappointing to see, and I can't imagine Sheldon Keefe was feeling too well after that game, but they just don't look like a good team. So to wrap this up, because I could go on and on about how much I do not like the Toronto Maple Leafs right now.
Right.
I'm going to wrap this up with a little slap in the face. Their Christmas wish list.
Yeah.
Nazem Kadri.
Yeah.
Miss him.
I do.
Miss that grit.
Yep.
Miss that will to win, that battle,
Yeah. And we'll trade back those 3 goals by Tyson Barrie.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll trade Jason Barrie, Alex Kerfoot. Give us Kadri back. We're good to go.
He had a great year last year. Not translating.
No. Okay. On to the Winnipeg Jets. Michael, what is on the Jets wish list?
I'm going to let you take this one. You're a Jets fan.
All right. Well, I think it's pretty easy for the Winnipeg Jets. They are cruising along right now. They've been playing really good hockey through the last month and a bit.
Yep.
If you could just erase the first month of the season, the Jets would be sitting pretty.
Yeah.
I actually went back through October, counted up their record, and if you could just eliminate that month from their season, the Jets would be 13-3-1 right now. Off to a flying start. Unfortunately, they stumbled through the first month of the season, have been playing great hockey ever since then, but are in a battle and they're in the division that last year kind of took a year off from the toughest division in hockey, but this year looking like once again the Central Division is again the toughest division in hockey. So, I mean, I don't know if right now, the way they're playing, I don't think there's much more the Winnipeg Jets could want. It's been a really successful experiment moving Blake Wheeler to center.
Yeah.
Of course, Brian Little's had some injury problems this year, which forced them to do that. And the way he's playing, it kind of makes you wonder, why hasn't Blake Wheeler just been a center his entire career? You know, and so yeah, I don't really know if there's much more you could say or wish for if you're the Winnipeg Jets right now. Just keep doing what you're doing. However, if we move further west to the Calgary Flames, a bit of a different story.
Yeah.
Michael, what's on their wish list?
Maybe for Milan Lucic to further accelerate his 4-goal pace. He got his opening goal.
Got it.
The other night on Saturday. So he's officially on pace for 4 goals for the season. You know, maybe for more there. I don't know. It feels like that Avalanche series really shook them. To the core. Because they have not come out of the gate, I think, how they wanted to at all. It seems, and I don't know, I haven't quite tracked their progress since Peters relieved himself of his duties. If they're playing better at all, but I think just in general they would have liked to get off to a much better start, and for some of their more elite guys to maybe find their mojo again.
Yeah, Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan both had career years last year. Gaudreau finishing just shy of 100 points. Monahan, I think, had like 82 or something like that. Just absolutely drove the bus for the team. And both of them are not on career low trajectories, but are both having really tough seasons. I think between the two of them, they've combined for about 12 goals so far, which is not top-line production.
No.
When you got a team that is not exactly built on offense, luckily Matthew Tkachuk has been really good for them this year. You need those guys to go. I mean, if Johnny Gaudreau is not scoring, he's not bringing really anything else to the team.
No.
And he's not scoring. So that is, without question, I think, number one on the Calgary Flames wish list. They got to get their top guys going again. And, yeah, like you say, maybe if you could reverse that Milan Lucic, James Neal trade. Although, as we move up to Edmonton, their Christmas wish list, things were looking pretty great for James Neal, the aforementioned, at the start of the season. If you look at his stats now, goals-wise...
Oh, he's tapered off.
He's still doing all right. He's got 14 goals on the season, which is fine.
Yeah.
You know, I think as far as the production you were looking for, he is right on pace that way. Only 6 assists, but he's there to score goals. He's not there to set up goals. Minus 16, however.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And I think if I am to put that into context with what should be on the Edmonton Oilers wish list, maybe just pay a little attention to team defense.
Yeah.
We know you can score. You have the top 2 scorers in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Once again, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid picking up exactly where they left off. I think they're 1 point difference. Their stats are virtually
53 and 52.
Yeah.
They got like a 6 or 7 point lead on probably Marchand and Pasternak. Another duo from another team.
Yeah, we know you can score. And if you look, you look at their goal differential, which is not dreadful, but is not great, not as good as you would expect for a team that is currently sitting first in the Pacific Division. But so you think maybe they're not getting the help on the back in goal that they need? You know, Mikko Koskinen had a decent year last year, earned himself a contract extension, and they brought in Mike Smith. So you thought maybe he can have a bounce back year. Maybe Koskinen can take on a bigger workload.
Yeah,
Koskinen's having a great season.
He is.
He's a .921 save percentage. Mike Smith is, not having as good a season, so maybe you lean a little bit heavier on Koskinen going forward, or maybe that is the plan.
Yeah.
But I think the answer lies within the team defense.
Yeah.
they just don't have any time for it.
I think I'd also probably throw in, and I know I feel like I've been drilling this to death, and I'm sure other pundits and analysts have, the depth scoring, because obviously you've got the best top-end talent in the entire league in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. James Neal got off to a crazy hot start, but that's because he was playing beside Connor McDavid, now slotting in beside Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. We've heard the rumors about Taylor Hall and how it seems to me anyways right now that Colorado is probably the front runner. It makes sense on a rental. They've got tons of cap space, defensive prospects. In a win-now mode, they can probably win the Cup this year. But we've heard that a reunion with Edmonton is maybe something that both parties would be interested in. I don't know, because a lot, some of the management has changed, so maybe that's something that is palatable. And that is certainly someone who could help them with depth scoring.
Yeah, not going to help with team defense.
Nope.
But could certainly help with the depth scoring a bit. And you just mentioned Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. A quick look at his stats this year. He's having a pretty bad year himself, too.
Yeah.
After having a career year last year, 69 points, he's got 5 goals and 11 assists. So that's one guy that you would look to first when you think depth scoring on this team. Not getting it done. So, I guess just keep going, Leon and Connor, because
that's right.
You're not getting any help anywhere else.
And if anything else, James Neal's still giving you the power play points. But again, he had a 4-goal game earlier this year. So the pace, very early
tapered
compared
off.
To now, she's tapered off a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay, and finally, we finish off with the Vancouver Canucks. Mike, what do you think is on the Canucks wish list?
If I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan, I'm really happy with this start.
Yeah.
Elias Peterson, JT Miller, who was a really nice offseason pickup for them, Brock Besser, all scoring at a point per game pace. Boa Horvat also having a pretty good start to the season. 4th in the Pacific. Mm-hmm. A really good power play, top 5 in the league. Right in the middle of the pack in terms of penalty kill. I guess if I were to throw one thing out there, maybe discipline. They do take a lot more penalties than they draw.
Right.
But other than that, I think I'd be pretty happy if I was a Canucks fan. They're off to a pretty good start. A fun, young team to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely on the rise, and I think they'll be competitive for years to come now. So I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah. Your presence is the best present,
but
I suppose.
I will say, if I'm throwing anything out there, if I'm nitpicking, I'm going with discipline.
Okay. I completely agree with you. If I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan right now, which I'm tempted to be, because like you just said, they are probably one of the most exciting teams to watch in the NHL right now.
Plus 12 goal differential. That's second in the Pacific Division.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
That's
second in the whole West.
Yeah. There's really not much to complain about right now if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan. So if you have to put something on your Christmas wish list, I think maybe your wish list would be that it's maybe just 2023 right now rather than 2019.
Sure.
We fast forward a couple years, get a couple more years of experience on this team, on the young stars, and man, if they can keep this core together, watch out for the Vancouver Canucks. Oh, man. All right. Well, there it is. Your Christmas wish list for the Canadian NHL franchises, all done, and we will be back on Cabin Sports Radio.
The Cabin Sports Radio podcast, brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward.
Cabin Sports Radio brought to you by Sport North, moving sport forward. One last segment to go, and if you're a regular listener to Cabin Radio's lunchtime news show with Ollie Williams, well, you will hear this interview tomorrow. But because I got it a day early, you can hear it a day early. You may have recalled talk about a boxing gym opening in Yellowknife. Well, that is fully going ahead, and there is a push to do even more than that with more. Here is Ollie Williams.
The sport of boxing has been, if not totally absent, then certainly on a back burner in Yellowknife for a number of years, but an organization is trying to bring that back. Now, already on Cabin Radio, we've told you the story of how boxing has been reintroduced to Yellowknife in recent months. Now, across the NWT, there is a drive on to establish a territorial sport organization, or TSO as they're known, called NWT Boxing, or at least I believe that's the name. Let's find out by asking the president, John Stanley. Is that the name?
That is the name, indeed.
NWT Boxing. Okay, we got the vice president, Scott Thompson. He's over to your left. Hello, Scott.
Hello.
And we also have Haroon Bhatti in the room as well. Now, Haroon, you're on the board, and you're also one of the boxers involved.
That's correct.
Okay. Harun, I'm going to start with you. Now, I know you're relatively new to Yellowknife. Tell us a little bit about your boxing past before you came here.
So I started boxing almost 4 years ago in England, which is where I was born and raised. And as you might know, boxing in England is pretty huge. There's boxing clubs in almost every small town, village, city, and it's one of the national sports. People love it there. So when I came to Canada, especially Yellowknife, I found that it was something missing in my life with boxing, and I wanted to push that forward, go to the gym, train, get more people on board. And then through boxing and through my younger brother, who's also an amateur boxer, I was introduced to John Stanley, who's also my coach and mentor. And we just kicked it off from there. And so I've been boxing for almost 4 years. I only recently got my amateur license, my Canadian amateur license. And I had a fight. And so I'm in the loop and ready to go.
Okay, so you've had a fight.
Yeah, yep. And I lost by decision. Okay. But we feel we won the fight, but I know there's things I need to improve on. And when you're in an opponent's hometown and you're the away fighter and you're getting booed when you walk into the ring, it's not only the fighter that you're fighting, but you're fighting the judges, you're fighting the crowd. So there's a lot of complications in boxing nowadays, but that's why I love the sport, because so much can happen.
All the more reason for Yellowknife and the NWT to have its own organization. So, John, tell me a little bit about how this got started from your point of view.
Well, my history in boxing goes back to 1985, so you can tell I'm probably a little bit on the old side. I started off as a boxer in 85. I was provincial coach for Newfoundland and Labrador for over 10 years. I had a coaching stint with Team Canada as well. I came up in the territories back in 2009, and there was no boxing going on here, so we started kickboxing, and I got involved a little bit with MMA. But when I moved down to GP, which I was down there for 2 years, to start one of our second location, I was able to get involved in Boxing Alberta, and we had some great success down there right away. We got a bunch of boxers that changed from one gym over to ours when they found out I was there, and we've won a bunch of titles since. We've actually had athletes at the national championships. So when I decided I was going to move back up to the territories, I decided, well, we've got to get a boxing program going up there. And then we started that, and then we started talking to Sport North, and we've been able to get this TSO going. Scott did some of the initial work and whatnot, and they were very receptive of it. And our mission, of course, now is to spread it throughout the territories. We want to get into the communities. We want to get out there. We don't just want this to be a Yellowknife organization. We want this to be a Northwest Territories organization, essentially.
Scott, as the vice president, you did some of the work John just said to actually get this going. What hoops do you have to jump through? What boxes do you have to check to actually become a sport in the Northwest Territories and fall under that umbrella?
Sport North was awesome. They when we contacted them and reached out to them about becoming a TSO, they were like, yeah, let's get this done. So there's a lot of hoops to go through. There's a lot of things that you have to be. There's usually some waiting periods and things like that. They helped us kind of fast track a lot of that because, boxing hasn't been around in the territory for a long time. And we, bringing up John's past and history and involvement with TSO, or not TSOs, but other organizations based in Newfoundland and his credentials, like they were gung-ho. There was no pushback. They actually held our hand and guided us through the entire process. It was phenomenal.
Okay. Now, Harun, from your point of view, coming over to England and boxing here, how do you see boxing in this, relatively small community compared to what you're used to, in terms of the talent that's here and the enthusiasm that's here so far?
Yeah, I mean, in the small communities is where there's a lot of hidden talent that you don't see. In the larger cities, there is, of course, opportunity, but because it's so crowded, you don't get that one-on-one time with the coach. You don't get to use all the equipment because of how crowded it is. And you look through history at some of the greatest fighters. One that comes to my name is Joe Calzaghe, and he grew up in Wales, and he lived in a very rural community. He didn't have any equipment. I think they just had one heavy bag, and he retired undefeated. He beat Roy Jones. He was a world champion. So from these rural communities, you get a lot of talent, and I feel like in Yellowknife there is huge talent. We've had the youth classes we've been running for almost half a year now. We've had the adults classes, and there's so much talent here, and Coach John can vouch for that. Some of the kids, they're starting when they're 6 years old. They come to the gym now, and they're naturals. And I feel like it can grow.
John, I know some people listening to this who maybe don't know much about boxing will hear 6-year-olds going to start boxing. What on earth does that look like? How do you start when you're 6 years old in this sport?
6 year. Well, we start them slow. I mean, we're not pushing for competition at that age. We get them in the gym. We get them used to the combinations and the skills that are involved and whatnot. But we take it very, very slow. When they get around the age of 10, they can compete. We have something called a fun box now that's involved that Boxing Canada has introduced. And essentially how it works is that they can get in the competition. They wear a little bit heavier gloves. They can go through the whole process of a competition, but it's not scored ultimately. And the referee will actually, if it gets out of hand, he'll start to slow it down. He'll tell them, hey guys, this is just a fun box. We're not here to, but they can have quite a few bouts like that before they actually have their first official bout. And those count in their book as an actual competition. And like I said, the big thing with that is it lets them go through this, the anxiety and everything that's involved with competing, but they don't have to worry about getting hurt. They don't have to worry about, winning or losing. That's all taken completely out of the picture. And it works fantastic. And we've got a couple of young kids at the gym right now that, I mean, they're just naturals. Like the way they've caught on and if they stick with it, I can really see a big future for them.
Scott, I know you're a veteran of a few different sports yourself. You've switched between a couple different disciplines in the past. We talk about talent transfer in sport and how you sort of, if you're good at one sport, you can be good at another. There's going to be a bunch of kids in Yellowknife, for example, who haven't had boxing as an option before. What do you need to be good? What kind of athlete, what kind of kid is this the sport for?
I mean, it's a sport for anybody, really. Like, anybody can do it. I've recently started boxing myself. It's been 3 months, and I'll tell you that I'm a goalie in hockey. I'd like to think that I'm coordinated. Like to think being the operative words. I felt like an uncoordinated boob when I first started learning how to box. It was entertaining. John quite enjoyed it. I'm sure he laughed a lot at me. All in good fun. But for kids, like watching, we got a kid now, I think he just turned 10, and he's been doing, 5 classes, John, I think?
He's 9. He's actually 9.
He's 9, and he's done 5 classes, and he throws better combinations than any of our adults, right? Like, he's just a natural. And even some of the kids who absolutely love it, and you look at them like, you know what? They don't go to sparring, they don't do any of that, but you can tell they love it. We have one girl, she's 10, and she was a figure skater for the last 6 or 7 years and has dropped figure skating to pick up boxing. Right. So whether there's a sport transfer from one to another, is it there? I don't think so. I've played almost every sport. And like I said, I've never felt more uncoordinated than trying to throw a combination. But it's a lot of fun. I love it. And you can see the passion that these kids have developed for it in the last 3 months. It's been great.
John, give us your evaluation of Scott so far.
I'm going to be as kind as I can. No, he's doing great for a guy that started later in sport. I mean, obviously, it's a sport that depends a lot on body mechanics. So, the later you start, the more difficult it is. And I mean, he has no delusions as to, how far he's going to go in the sport competition was and all that kind of stuff. And if he did, I took them away from him already. But obviously from a competition perspective, I mean, the younger you can start, the better. But just as a note to something he said, I mean, it is a sport that requires a great deal of coordination, and a lot of athletes from other sports have done it for that purpose, and it helps them in their other sports. So the opposite is true in respect to how it can transition out into other sports.
For sure, and I've noticed that with hockey.
And of course, if you do play hockey, it's also a skill that can be used. A little bit of boxing doesn't hurt there either.
Oh, Canada. Talent transfer in Canada extends across so many sports. Haroon, give me an idea about what you hope to achieve now. Because now that you've got this sort of association behind you, you as a boxer, where do you hope to be able to go with the sport in Canada?
So on the 25th of January, we have the provincials. And Coach John allowed me to represent NWT boxing in the provincials. So our hope is to win. And that's the only thing I'm going for. And I know that the other boxers out there, they're not going to be getting the kind of training that we get here, going running at minus 40, being in that environment, that conditioning, and how Coach Scott will be able to push me through conditioning. He himself is like ripped to shreds. He just got gold medal in the jiu-jitsu tournament on the weekend. So, and I know that I'm in good hands and safe hands. And through my training and hopeful success in boxing, I want to inspire the other youth in the boxing club to reach that level. And yeah, that's the goal.
Just quickly, for somebody who grew up near Peterborough in England, how's minus 40 running working out for you?
Yeah, so one of the reasons I go running is obviously for my stamina and my endurance, but the other reason why I do it is so that I can get used to the cold, so I don't feel cold when I'm just walking from my car to the office or to the home in between. So yeah, it acclimatizes me to the weather, and it works.
Okay, I'd never thought of jogging as an acclimatization technique. Not sure what I think about that. And maybe I'll try that, maybe I won't. Scott, we do want to just mention this jiu-jitsu medal. Tell us a bit more about that.
I just competed in the Rocky Mountain Classic in Red Deer this past weekend, and I, as Herman mentioned, got gold in my weight class. And then I competed in the Absolute, which is all weight classes of your same belt color, for the first time ever. And I got bronze in that as well.
Okay. You're doing a lot of different sports these days. What's your ambition in jiu-jitsu? I mean, we've sort of established that boxing, maybe a recreational activity, just based on John's generous assessment there. What about jiu-jitsu?
I mean, listen, I have no disillusions. I'm almost 40. I like to compete. Jiu-jitsu for me, I picked it up because I wasn't going to get punched. But now that I do boxing, I don't mind being punched. So I don't know. I mean, I have no ambitions or goals with anything. I like to compete. I'm a competitive guy, and I like to be in shape. And I'll tell you what, the conditioning that you get from boxing, there's nothing quite like Fighter Fit. Like, even as conditioned as I am, my first time I sparred, I was gassed a minute and a half in, and I'm not used to that. I've never really felt that sensation before. And a lot of it's nerves and being tense and, learning to relax. But I couldn't get over it. Like, the Fighter Fit is the highest level of fitness. So even if you want to come out and try it, we have the adult class too, right at the gym for the conditioning sake. We've seen members burn anywhere between 450 and 650 calories in an hour.
John, just lastly for you, listening to your resume, you sound like you've been there and done that in many respects in this sport. What's in it for you to start this here?
Honestly, for me, it's just passing on the sport, right? It's more about, it's kind of a legacy thing for me. I've been involved in the sport for a long time, and I produced a lot of champions and whatnot, but I haven't had the opportunity to spread the sport, into a new community where, it's been absent, and boxing has been absent here for a long time. The last time that there was a representative from the Northwest Territories in boxing at the Canada Games was in 1987. So that's something that I want to change, and I definitely really want to get into the communities and give the kids out there the opportunity to do something that they simply don't have. There's not a lot of options out there for them. And they have a lot of time on their hands where they're just kind of, sitting there doing nothing kind of thing because they don't have the options. And this is a sport that doesn't require a lot of equipment. It doesn't require a lot of money. Everything we do in the communities, we're going to be doing is on a volunteer basis. So I just want to spread the sport and help keep youth off the streets and help keep them doing something active and positive that's going to help them in their lives.
Just quickly, Scott, whether people are listening in Yellowknife or elsewhere in the NWT, how do they get in touch?
They can reach us at info@nwtboxing.com. We'll have a website up and running real soon, but we're just kind of getting off the ground right now. Or you can check us out through our own gym, which is stanleyboxing.com. And all of our gym schedule is on there as well. And our contact information is on there too.